seed. But one thing I want to say, when I say creativity, just to set the tone for the session. So today we're clearing energy around passion and creativity. And the main creativity, it's not, when we say creativity, a lot of you may think, oh, being artsy or being creative. You are always in energy of creativity because creativity comes from the word create. So that means being co-creator of your life and being that creatress energy. All of you here, I mean, I can talk about men too, they have feminine energy, but you literally chose a womb. Like you chose a body that can create life out of almost thin air. Like you can create regardless of fertility, if you had a uterus removed or not. You chose a body that has that capacity. You could have chose to be a man and you didn't. Your soul did not. So we really want to tap into this energy today. But before we get there, who wants to jump into the hot seat? I mean, Tani, you have no choice because I called you out last week. And then everyone else, you can start tapping into a little bit of what you want to talk about. So, Tani, my love, yes, hi.
Hi.
Tell me a little bit what came up with that heart meditation.
Yeah, the heart meditation was unbelievable because like I felt like it was supposed to be like this positive experience, and it was like my mind just went to sadness and grief. And I had a miscarriage 3 months. I was just a little over 3 months pregnant, and I was like, I had 2 miscarriages, but really early on prior to that. So this one, I was like, I got over the 3 month mark, and then I lost the baby, and it was really sad. But like I just kind of just blocked it out and just like, oh, I guess it wasn't meant to be or whatever, and then just kind of moved on with my life. And I didn't recognize that how sad I was about that, and it all came out just like kind of that in that meditation. Just I feel like out of the blue because I don't even feel like I think about it anymore.
You got that from the new moon, from the full moon one.
From the full moon one, yes.
Correct.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
the heart one was, yeah, that was another one that was really different because once again, I feel like it was supposed to be a positive experience, and then
So, Tammy, I know we've spoken about this in your health call, but I'm going to say it for the group. What makes you think you need to have a positive experience from the meditations?
I don't know. I just feel like when the stage is set and we're talking, like when you're talking about like, you're walking down a path and you're in a beautiful, majestic forest, and everything seemed to be so positive, and and then you have a castle and envision the castle. And I'm like, well, a castle to me is like a positive, beautiful thing, and mine was like a dark dungeon, like full of cobwebs and scary one. Like, so.
Okay. So let's go there. Let's start describe the whole thing for me because I gave you, there is a questionnaire, right? That tell
Yes.
you how everyone felt. Let's go there, but I'm going to say for everyone, I don't know if everyone could hear it, the positive and negative, the positive and negative, the positive. So that is a judgment that you probably have in a lot of areas in your life about yourself, how you should be feeling, and that polarity that either has to be positive or negative.
Mm.
So you might be very hard on yourself depending on your perception of what you're doing is positive or negative. Versus, so I mean, I'm going to go back to it. We are going to clear the energy of acceptance at some point, but I think it's just very interesting for everyone to hear. Usually a lot of my mentees that are in business coaching or manifesting usually they have that wound of everything has to be positive or negative. They can't look at something as like as is. They have to give it a charge. It's either positive or negative. And you can't fully get what you're meant to get from something if you already have an expectation and you're already judging it. So I'm giving an example that is very pertaining to you. Let's say eating at night or returning a text that you shouldn't be returning. In that moment, instead of saying, I feel this way right now, and observe it and perceive it and have that. You can't, because you're already putting a judgment of like, this is negative, and like, you're already putting yourself in self judgment. I'm a bad girl, I have no control, blah 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 blah. So you're already putting yourself in a state of negative, and you're returning into a state as a soul wound or whatever that is not going to be empowering, because you already judge yourself that it's negative, therefore you don't have the skill set, you're not strong enough, you're not worthy enough, whatever chain of dialogue, inner dialogue, that's going to ripple from that. Can you perceive that? Can you see how it would make you spiral and take you in its own little journey, versus allowing you to actually stay aligned and just observe it for what it is without judging it?
Mhm. Like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because if I think of it as negative, then it's going to be negative, and then the behavior, then you have shame and guilt on top of the
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. It's like you always only have two ways. It can either be this, and if I'm not feeling good, therefore it's hell. And then it's all of the things, the attachment that you have to this second door that is negative. Mm-hmm. And what we want to do is actually put you in a state of neutral. We're gonna get to it in a second, but I think it's important for the whole group. There is a few people here that may also have a very hard time when things are not positive, that therefore they are negative. And actually, it's not necessarily true. Things could just be healing. Things could just be it as is. It doesn't have to be negative, because negative will send you to whatever you perceive negative to be, especially as a child. You mentioned shame. You mentioned guilt. Someone else could be like, I have no self-worth. Someone else could be humiliation. Someone else could feel rejection. And it would spiral, and it would have a life on its own, and it would definitely take you out of empowerment. That's what I want to get to. Because when you label it as that, you are necessarily being in this empowerment state, and it spirals out of control. Okay? So tell me about your path. How did the color felt, and the castle, and all of that?
Yeah, the castle was just dark, really scary. There was a scary person.
Look at your notes and tell me how the path was. You had the red one, you had the orange one, you had the yellow one.
Oh, the path, like initially it started out being very stable, and then it just became really unstable and scary to walk on.
When did it turn unstable and scary?
When I can't remember.
Is it in your notes? You remember how I tell you how every single color feels like?
All I put was the first path. You said it was very stable underneath, and then my mind, it went someplace else when you kept talking about the path and stuff, and my mind just went somewhere else. I wasn't allowing myself to to think about it, and I started crying, and I was crying almost the whole entire meditation.
Okay.
The forests for me just made me feel sad, alone, and scared.
Okay.
Alone, very lonely.
So castle, you said, go back to describe it for me. You said it earlier.
The castle was like, it looked like a deserted like structure. It was dark. It was full of cobwebs. All the windows were like, had like plywood over them. So there was no light coming into it, and it was dark, and it was abandoned, full of cobwebs, and there was a being in there. There was a person, just a scary person in there.
Okay. Or what did the heart need? How did your heart look like?
My heart was bright red, and it was like a cartoon character, and it was cold.
Mm-hmm.
And it needed safety, it needed community, it needed togetherness. It was afraid of being alone.
Tammy, where in your childhood did you feel alone and scared? First memory that comes to mind.
Just my parents never being there. They worked a lot, both of them. And I
Can you
was,
close your eyes for 1 second? Just close your eyes. And I say alone and scared. And almost the energy of like chilling. And tell me the first memory that comes to mind.
being sexually abused.
How old were you?
6.
So it's what I find very interesting is actually your heart was bright red, which is alive. Your heart is alive. I know that you mentioned cartoon and it felt lonely and scary, but to me, what I'm very interested in is alone means a scary person. There is a scary person in it. And at first, before I asked you this question, I was like, who is still disconnecting you from your heart? Like what energy, whose energy as a person still inhabiting literally your heart? That's what the castle represents. It represents your heart chakra and how you see it and how much connection you have to it. And your heart is very much alive. It's beating. Even though it looks like a cartoon character, even though it was cold, but it's almost like because there is no vein or artery or connection to it to help it have more of that blood flow. But the good news I want to say is it's alive, meaning there is a part of you. The positive will be that it is there to connect if you need it. And you have access to it. What's the biggest thing I would work on right now? Because I think that the miscarriages, all 3 of them, I know the third one was the last straw on the camel back because you had that hope and you had that even bigger loss, are all representation of how that 6-year-old felt. You probably at that age, to protect yourself, literally killed a part of you. That's to me what the true first miscarriage happened, is in that sexual first time or whatever was going on when you were 6 years old. So what I would, what module are you in right now?
I'm just finished 2nd. I just started 3rd.
Perfect, because 3rd is all about reparenting. We'll start into the mother wound. And I would really focus on that first for a long time, because the good news is when you were talking about the stability of the path, every part of the path represents a chakra. It's not random. The first one is red, the second one is yellow, the third is orange, the third one is yellow, and then we move into the green one, which is the castle to the heart. Your first one was the most stable. And then the moment I got into the inner child, you freaked out. Like the moment, like you started trying to disconnect from that loss of that child. Like, can you hear that? The loss of that child is not just the babies that you lost, it's also that part of your childhood that you lost at that moment. So what you want to do is really strengthen that first chakra, which is the mother, which is the safety, which is the representation of the support. So you're always going to say almost right on track, but I definitely, in today's energy healing, I want you're right on track, because then and then after that, we're going to go into healed to like inner child work. So the next 2 months are going to be heavy on this big wound for you, on healing that for you. But today, bring the intention of connecting to that child in you that felt like, that experienced that abuse literally like a death. Because everything else doesn't matter. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, until we can connect to that part of you, working on your behavior with eating late or responding to a text or not, none of that matters, because actually you're still trying to fill a void of a part of you that is lost, that we're bringing back right now.
Yeah.
So the amazing news is that you're ready for it. Otherwise, your mind and your soul would have not brought so much darkness. So that's the positive of that negative. If you would not have those negative experience, we would have never been have this experience, this conversation right now. We're still going to be talking about what kind of void are you trying to fill with the food in the middle of the night, and then we'll be there for another 6 months. So you see how a negative is actually not a negative, how beautiful gift you just gave yourself by allowing yourself to actually experience what you judge as negative. It's actually one of the most healing, profound things that you've done today.
Yeah, I do see that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So no more negative, judging the negative. We see it as a beautiful opportunity. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Who wants to go next? Well, Amanda, you kind of wrote there, so you can, someone else want to sneak in, you can do it. Otherwise, Amanda is going to be the next victim in the list. Going twice for someone else. You guys? Okay, Amanda.
I just was kind of like I'm the same. I was the same way in that.
Mhm.
Like I saw a dark, scary place. And then it actually ended up becoming like pink, and it was old and rickety though still. But
Mhm.
now, like listening to you guys talk, I was kind of like, wait, like was I convincing myself that it needed to be prettier? I guess like during the meditation, I don't know. So
Okay.
that was didn't want her
So,
to feel alone.
so
I was like,
no, I don't think she was ever alone. Why do you think I have that meditation? Because that castle never looked pink from the first place. Very rarely, actually. So I don't know. The pink actually does resonate. But
okay.
what I really heard, I am going to ask you more question about what you wrote down in the handout that comes with it. But
Mhm.
I found very interesting is the self-doubt.
Self-doubt, yeah. Well, just like when we were talking about it right now, I was like, wait a second, like maybe I convinced myself.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I'm more interested in.
Okay.
Um, okay, so what I just heard, all I can never be right.
Okay.
So what I was writing down is always my fault.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
what if there is ever a disconnect between, so there's always this pattern in your behavior, or if there is anything that I'm not even call it wrong, but different, it
Mhm.
has to come from you. Like you are the problem versus you
Uh-huh.
could have been the solution.
Mhm. Yeah, that resonates.
That right. Look at you knowing that word. So tell me a little bit more about your path.
Let's see. So red, I said I didn't feel much. Like maybe it felt like harsh to me.
Mhm.
And then the orange felt fun. I was like kicking the sand. Yellow, gold felt warm, and then the grass felt refreshing.
Was your mom harsh towards you?
No.
So what is this harsh energy? I mean, you're harsh towards yourself, so we know that.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
I would say my dad was probably more harsh,
yeah, but
like
it's not,
expected more out of me.
yeah, but it's a feminine energy though. Was your mom harsh towards herself or opposite?
Yeah.
Actually, you feel like she didn't ask much about herself?
I would say that she was harsh on herself.
Okay, tell me more.
I mean, my first thought's like always like having to be thin. That's like my first thought, like harsh in that way. Um, that's all I could think of though.
In her behavior, even towards food or towards her body, was she always in this, that she always had the illusion that she needed to, that it was her fault if she wasn't thin? It was something that she was doing?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay,
Like
tell me a
I
little bit more.
like even now she'll just like not eat for a while to like be thin. So I feel like that's pretty harsh on yourself, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, I mean, starving yourself, yeah, that
Yeah.
would qualify as harsh. Um, oh God, you need to tell me more. Just tell me more about your mom. There is something else.
Um, harsh.
Or
I
like
mean,
be at fault, like it's my fault. So she think that's something she's doing clearly in her food. That's why she would starve herself to stop.
mhm.
So, but tell me a little bit more about the behavior of or even in general, women being blamed. So even if your dad was the one being harsh on you, but where is women at fault or being harsh or needing to, what is that energy? So I need you to just talk more because I'm not getting the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this, and my dad was a drug addict when he
Mhm.
was younger. So I feel like maybe she was hard on herself, like it was her fault, kind of, that he didn't stop almost. I'm trying to think. I don't know. What else? I don't know. I think thin makes her, what was it? I had a thought. Thin
In
makes her like,
control.
yeah, or like a good person, or like, I don't know, where she's supposed to be, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, so there's the energy of meeting an expectation.
Mm. Yeah.
So describe the heart for me. So the castle,
Heart.
tell me what your notes say.
My heart was dark red. It looked worn, had pieces taken out of it and chains. It looked worn down. That's what I wrote.
When I say the word pieces taken out of it, who do you think took them?
I mean, when you said it, I said my dad.
What did it need?
Love. I hugged it, I sewed it, I embraced it, and I took off the chains.
So love for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I know we've spoken about this before, but it's coming back again, is recognition. Because those pieces is all pieces of you that in your head don't meet, for someone else didn't meet the expectation. And
Mm-hmm.
you were basically like part of you was taken away.
Yeah.
Like every single time you didn't meet that expectation, you were being told that you're the problem.
Yeah.
Going back to, and that's why we started this whole thing. It's always my fault.
Yeah.
So these are the parts of you that were like literally almost stolen. That's how the energy is like we're stolen away from you. That because they were not recognized, so you either shut them down or let them go, or so this is the energy of recognition for you. And it will tie to what we're clearing here today with the energy of creativity. But I want you, your definite homework until we speak next is which part of you do you judge as negative, not good enough, don't meet the expectation? They have to go against the mainstream, what's expected of you, that you completely rejecting. So there are parts of you that are not going to meet the expectation. That's what we're not here to meet anyone's expectation. That's just their version of stuff that means nothing. So you're not here to conform to other person's vision of who you need to be. You're here to become who you are meant to be and who you
Mm-hmm.
are. But there are distinct parts of you that, and the image I have, I know it is like someone bit into them, like bit into you and took them away. Like it feels that traumatic to your body, and that you're still not claiming them back because you're still judging them, because you still hasn't given them that recognition. So at this point, we want you to, I need you to make a list of all the parts of you that you judge are not being good enough, that you need to start recognizing right now, to
Okay.
start claiming back right now.
Okay.
How many times did you do the castle temple?
I only did it once.
Okay, yeah, I would have you do it a couple more times.
Okay.
And we are having the new moon, which guys you're gonna get the new moon in Aries tomorrow. So I know every single time we speak, there is some kind of Aries energy, and I want you to be angry, so I apologize. But I almost was like, love is great, but I want, like, I am curious to see with that energy of like, why are parts of it missing? It's more than a little bit of love. There is some justice needed. I know we spoke about the energy of injustice before with you, but now actually you are rejecting those parts of yourself, and we want to bring them back. There is a whole module that is about calling back our soul energy and integrating all parts of us. So we will get there, I promise.
Mhm.
But do them a couple more times with that awareness, and let's see what comes up. But your
Okay.
homework is to make that list, okay?
All right. Got it.
Perfect. Anyone else wants to be hot seated? Let's go. Ingrid, yeah, can unmic. You can unmic, my love. Yeah,
Oh,
there you go.
sorry.
Perfect. Yeah, you're great.
Uh,
How was the horse show?
yes, one moment. I need to let the dog in. Hold on.
Sure. Hi, Mac.
Yeah, he wants to be present.
Of course.
Okay. Yes, I'm back. Is there? I can. Yes.
Did I lose you? No, you're here. Okay, so tell me.
Yes. Sorry
Yes,
about.
what? You tell me.
I'm very hyped up,
Mm-hmm.
very emotional, which it's on one hand, I have a history of suppressing emotion,
Mm-hmm.
but then on the other hand, like right now, I think this is like a part that's blending, like
Mm-hmm.
internal family systems, like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a distraction, like maybe in a way that the emotion is like, let's not go there. Let's not
Mm-hmm.
talk about it.
Well, so it's so interesting because suppressing emotion definitely resonated. And I found it very interesting that you said emotional and then you said hyped up.
Yeah, like
Tell me-
vibrating, agitated.
Okay. So going back to the energy of judgments that we started the call with, does being emotional to you feels like someone who is agitated or not stable?
I think in some ways it's part of like being overwhelmed or lack of control. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's definitely my
Okay, so well, we know this, that suppressing our emotion is a form of control, right? Like we're gonna control this emotion by suppressing it because then it doesn't have its own life. Because it's true, once you feel the emotion, you are quote unquote at the mercy of that, how that emotion is gonna play. You can't control necessarily how you're gonna behave in public, blah 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 blah. You know what I'm trying to say? But which I love, because I was just thinking in all of the times that we've spent together, I've seen you more cry the last, regardless of events, life event.
mhm.
So my very first question when you said suppressing, I'm very emotional and hyped up, I want to ask you, how long have you not been crying?
So I don't have a memory of this, but apparently shortly after my dad died, which was shortly after my 6th birthday,
Mm.
I went to my mom and I said, I'm not going to cry anymore because I didn't like it. So I stopped. And then she told me that story like either when I was in high school or college, because I had at least 2 or 3 different friends that in different scenarios, you know, were having heart-to-heart talks, and they're like, you don't cry. Like, you don't cry.
Mhm.
And I knew I knew in some ways that wasn't true. Like I knew I would cry. If I was crying, it was because I was frustrated or I was tired, like overly tired. So anyway, I mentioned to my mom these conversations, and she told me about after my dad died that I was like, I don't want to cry anymore.
Mhm.
It wasn't any
So-
fun. So I decided not to do it.
Well, it's not even about fun. You said I didn't like it. And what I
Yeah.
heard is you're 6 years old thinking it's not changing anything. So you already had a very practical response, like, well, what's the point? It's not bringing him back. It's not making me feel good. It's not fun. Like it's almost like, what is the purpose of me crying?
Yeah.
Which already tells me, because as a child, you actually know that intuitively, crying makes us feel good. Even if it's not in a good of judgment, but it's an energy release. Like literally, chemically speaking, if you look at a tear from a chemistry perspective, from its composition, you can say if it's a happy tear, an allergy tear, or like what kind of tear is it? Like you can tell the emotion behind the tear just by looking at its chemical component. So it is serving even a purpose for the body at a certain, if the body is changing the chemistry to, because it's serving a purpose, it's not going to spend that energy doing that. We just create one tear for everything.
Right.
So that tells me, like, even you said tired. We can tell that kids, when they feel tired, they feel better when they cry. Like there isn't a release. You may not, but you, in your case, at that age already, you had an attachment to the outcome.
Hmm.
Meaning it's no fun. It's not bringing my dad. It's not changing anything.
Yeah.
So even in the crying, it still needed to serve a purpose that you needed to control. If I'm going to cry, it need to have a reason.
Yeah. And so I've been in like childhood recovery since for like 10 years. And some of the literature that I've come across there was even like, oh, this is an opportunity for healing and in my life, I've had a hard time accessing or knowing my emotions just from knowing them or naming them. So, but I've been a little bit more aware of like what's happening to my body. So being like, I've been able to evaluate, oh, this is what my body is feeling. So therefore I know it's that this emotion or this thing is happening, and that's opened up more. But I still feel like there should be rhyme or reason to it. And I even remember, a couple months ago, I was telling some friends a story about one thing, and I started crying about something else. And I was telling the people, oh, this is weird. Okay, I'm crying about something else, but I'm still telling you the story while I'm crying about this other thing.
Well, because your higher self is very smart, and your body is ready to start releasing these things, and is going to find any crack or opportunity when you're not paying attention. That's when maybe the word distraction comes in to actually allow that release. But at this point, you can hear, right? You can hear yourself how you're trying to mentalize this process so much, right? Like you are trying, and it's great that you're reverse engineering it through your body. But I almost want to say, but who cares? Honestly, who cares? Versus just giving yourself permission to feel. And
Which
go ahead.
I would say, which is also interesting because you know, I felt like I've been a solid C student in a way of
Mhm.
how I'm approaching the activation course. And I don't know if I don't know if that like parts of me weren't ready for certain parts because I kind of was like, not necessarily picking and choosing, but like certain aspects were resonating with me more than others. And like I did the heart meditation twice, but I didn't do the handout.
Mhm.
And for some reason, like the structure of the modules and things were confusing to me. So yesterday I went back and kind of like was filling in the gaps. And I even started writing down like what's the module, what's the sub thing, so that I can like keep track of where I am or what's happening, which is fine.
So how is that related to permission to feel?
Because I have to mentally understand what's happening in order to feel like anything's happening.
Yeah, yes, but you hear how all of this is distraction from feeling.
Yeah, in some ways, like I know that I have this lifelong distraction. And so I'm trying to figure out the ways to access
Yeah, so
things
give me
or
a
to
second
like
because
break it down.
yeah, so it's not about breaking. Again, you're bringing, it's so interesting because I was just saying, thinking, writing down permission to feel. And then I wrote down actually what you're asking is you're not trusting your feminine because the feeling, that intuitive, that women, is like the permission of the woman to be. And I
Right.
know like how much of your a feminine energy, like activist, right? Like,
Yeah.
but you are always trying to bring the masculine into it. If we call the masculine the structure, it's like the masculine has to come in first. And how can I bring in the structure so I can feel? How can I structure this? How that I can, and it's versus it's I used this analogy before. So think of the water, the river. And if we use the water as the feminine energy and the river bank as being the masculine energy, you don't create the structure first. It's the water through its movements, through its how flooding, how much of a flow, how heavy of a flow, of how soft of a flow, how much water is in there, that is creating the riverbank. If you put the structure first, it becomes a dam.
Right. Which I like 100% consciously, I would say that in my family, there was always a preference for the men, and like my immediate family and my extended family. And so I also said that, you know, my brothers raised me where my mom was working a lot. And so I think I felt like, or I know I felt like, if I want to be able to do things, then I have to adapt and be this way first and enter the world with this energy to create the space so that I can be myself. And I also think that I was diagnosed with dyslexia at like age 7 and had a lot of tutoring. And the tutoring was kind of like, well, this is how information is acceptable in the world, and you don't do it that way. So let's teach you how to take the information and then do whatever it is I do, and then translate it back so that it's fit for public consumption.
That is the perfect example of how you do everything.
It is. It is.
Literally, like but what I loved is that create the space to be myself versus being yourself is what actually create the space.
Yeah.
So you see how you're reverse engineering. Do you have a belief that your mom had to work just as much and be absent because your dad wasn't there?
I mean, I think I see it more as a societal thing and like a family thing, that because we didn't have a man
Mhm.
to vouch for us, that we were taken advantage of.
100%. 100%, because the thing is, like, you see men as security. You see the masculine as security. And I don't know what module you're in right now, but module 3, which is the feminine, which is the mother and the roots, you would know that first chakra is actually the security chakra, the safety chakra, and it's Mother Earth that gives us that security.
Yeah.
It's
And
your root chakra and your mother, like, it's the feminine energy that actually gives the security.
yeah. And I don't think that I felt that a lot growing up in family and
Mhm.
maybe even, like school and things. But as I mentioned to you, like the group of women that I went camping with, like I've known them since I was 11, and this was like summer camp, and everything was like there was no question of why the girls and women are doing what they want to do.
Absolutely. And I love that we had this conversation. Like, this happened right before this conversation. But I want you to close your eyes and actually feel this for a second. It's not the absence of the masculine that caused the insecurity. Is the lack of safety in the feminine that caused the absence of the feminine, which is the absence of your mom, that caused the insecurity. It's actually the absence of the feminine that causes the insecurity. You did not feel secure because you did not feel that there was enough feminine energy around you. So you had to double down on the only thing that you think you had was the masculine, which is shown by society or being raised by men or the structure that was given you, whatever it is. But can you at least feel that your sense of lack of security or your sense of security is actually not coming from the masculine?
Mhm.
The masculine is only giving you more tools and more tools and more tools to give you an illusion of like, oh, I have things under control. I can navigate this, which I love that you say an average C, because you will work so much and everything, right? Like even in your health, in everything, you're going to have to make an effort, triple effort to get a C result.
Mhm.
Because the amount we always talk about your physical health, if the amount of effort that you're putting into the physical health and the time and all of that, you should be the healthiest person we know, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's because you're doubling because of the absence of the feminine. And it's so interesting because that's why I told you close your eyes and feel it. But your mind is like, but, and I'm like, I just need your mind to quiet for 2 seconds because it's all in your lower spine. So it's here, like it's all in your lower spine. It is ready to be like it wants, but your mind is like, we've lived this way for decades. You can't change that. And I am alive today because of it. Like there is so much. But that's why I love that you're losing control with the whole crying thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, the dam has broken. The only way now to let the water do its thing is by allowing it to flow. And
Which
it's not, go ahead.
which what's coming to me a lot now is the whole swimming coming back up, and like I used to think of it as like a to-do thing and as a workout thing, and now I see it more as like I need to be in water, and I know like it's helping me with my breath. And as you're saying, like the lower back stuff like that has been releasing, and just my whole approach, like I think one, being in the water, but then
Mhm.
two, like doing this activity without any justification.
Or expectation. Yeah. or expectation of outcome, because that's your biggest thing, is that every single thing in order to, it needs to be. So even for the goddess act, in order for things to work, it has to be a certain way where it doesn't even matter, because the energy release does not care about the handouts. That is just for your mind to come on board. Do you, because even when you start saying about the swimming, you're like, and my lower back and my breath work.
My mind likes to be in the driver's seat. It's going to take a while.
That's fine. That's fine. It's honestly so fine, because the only thing I need you to do is recognize it.
Yeah.
And you literally have to be talking to it and be like, hey, buddy, I see what you're doing. Thank you so much. But I got it. It feels good. So like your biggest homework for you is starting to do things because they feel good.
Yeah.
And your mind is going to come up, especially when your mind come up with things, that's when you're going to do it. Then you're going to have to actually break that barrier of that habit, break that pattern. And I'm not going to try to justify it. It feels good. I'm going to do it. I'm crying in the middle of a sentence about something else. But you know what, guys? It feels good. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to finish my story. And that's it. And literally, that's it. Your biggest homework is do more of the things that your brain is glitching and cannot come up with an explanation, and do more of the things that just feel good. Okay?
Yep. And my brain will take that as a challenge and say,
Oh, I'm sure. I can already hear it. You're like almost like it was ready. It's like, oh, okay. But no.
I get it. Yeah. I get it.
Because the energy has moved a little bit. I don't feel like my lower back is paralyzed like I was a few minutes ago. So it does mean that, of course, like it has done this for so long. It's going to be, feel a little bit discombobulated at first, but it's fine. It's just a new muscle that you're learning. But once you're going to feel it, and you will, like I know you will, it's so hard to go back. That's the beauty of it. Like you would notice it so much that your brain is going to become annoying versus actually being a source of safety. Like it's going to not serve that purpose, that hidden advantage that we talk about in module 1 so much. It's not going to have that hidden advantage anymore. And therefore is going to lose less and less of its power. And believe it or not, our mind actually does not want to be in the driver's seat. It just thinks that there is no other driver in the car. That's why. Once it's like, oh, look, the heart knows how to drive and is doing it pretty good. So I can just relax in the corner there and, be solicited to tell them what exits it's out. I could be just there to serve versus being in charge. The ego, the mind, is an amazing servant. It's a horrible CEO. It's an amazing assistant. It's a horrible CEO. It doesn't want to be a CEO. Trust me. It thinks it only does it because it thinks no one else is in charge. Okay? Amazing. I'm going to close, stop the recording. I'm going to give all of you a couple of minutes to go back, drink water, move, do whatever you have to do. And we're going to come back in 4 minutes. And Cassandra, if you want to say, I can even address that. I don't know, you wrote something, but you're not. Are you able to in Zoom? To not on Zoom, the video. Or not? Oh, there you go. So tell me a little bit more about problem with the images.
Like if you say build the castle, I can put the castle in my mind, but then you're already to the next step. I'm like still making it in my mind. And most of the time I can tell you how I feel about either the path, the castle, the dragon you want us to imagine. But like the design in my mind is very difficult. So, and I get from what I'm listening now is that it's very important. I would need to
no
like the color, the shade, okay.
No. Okay. So what about you say with the feeling? I mean, there is a couple of things. There is literally writing down exactly that. There is no right or wrong. You could literally write down, I was still imagining the castle, and you moved into the next thing. You can pause the meditation, mute me.
I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, pause me and imagine your castle for as long as you need, and then do that. Now, if you find that you are mental about it, that's what I'm worried about. Oh my God, she wants to imagine a castle. She wants a color. She wants this, what I'm going to come up with. Like if you go into this, that's what I don't want.
Okay.
Is basically what I'm trying also to train you is first thing that comes to mind. Nothing comes to mind, trust that. The whole purpose is not to trust me, is to trust what comes up for you. And what comes up is the right thing is, and you, what is very important from what I told everyone is there is no right or wrong. So for example, Amanda was like, well, and then I thought I needed to make it pink, and then it turned pink. And then I was like, is my mind, is that I don't want? That's what's not important. What's important is to trust what comes up. And if comes up, you need to slow me down. You have the option on, you can do anything, literally slow down. You can slow it down to 0.5 and make the thing go even slower and pause it. That's absolutely, that's why you have a recording. It's not live. You can pause it. You can do it. You can journal as you go. You can do it whichever way. You can go one go, stop, finish it, and then reflect back. So when did I feel that? How did it work there? So your feedback is the only thing that's important. There is no right or wrong feedback. Well, and I'm glad that I asked you live, because when I saw, I was like, I'm having trouble with the imaging. I was like, I thought you had trouble with the visualization, because some people do. Some people cannot visualize at all. They can't see anything in the
That's the
meditation.
thing. Yeah, well, it's the visualing part of it, all of it. Does
Which
that
one
make
is it?
sense?
You just said that you needed more time to visualize it, and you needed more spend time with it to get more imaging, or you don't see anything.
Sometimes I do see some like something, but
Mhm.
most of the time I would say I could tell you how I feel or the color associated like to the thing,
Perfect.
but
Perfect.
I
Perfect.
cannot like tell you the details of the
Perfect.
castle and stuff. So okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's all that matters.
Okay.
That's
Good.
literally all that matters. There is my one of the professors that we had, she, like, so there was a European program, and one of them was Italian. I don't speak Italian, and the whole meditations were in Italian. And I remember asking, be like, can we have the French version? And they're like, it doesn't matter. I was like, okay. But like, how? And they're like, it doesn't matter. What matters is your subconscious, is the tone, is the subliminals. Like there is way more to the things than the words. The words is just keeping your 1% of your brain engaged, but 99% is happening in the background. That's what I said. It doesn't matter. The handles don't even matter. It's just for us to talk about, right? So if we could do it, literally, we did a whole year in Italian. That was fun, but it cleared so many things. It worked because
Okay.
it's on. So don't overthink it. That's the theme for today. Should have been don't overthink theme,
Yeah.
but it's perfect. So I'm gonna give you guys 5 more minutes since everyone stayed, and we come back at 4 sharp.
Thanks.
Or yeah, in 5 minutes after.